Good morning. It's still early and everyone else is still asleep. My kid is still here. He's sleeping. Hubby's sleeping. The dog's sleeping. I'm the only one that's up because it's quiet. And yeah, this is going to be a great vlog, you guys. I have a lot going on. I'm almost done with the star blanket. I have another project on tap for my husband, also a blanket. So, I guess I do blankets now. No. So that last little clip you just saw was the end of a 15-minute clip because I forgot to press play. So let me tell you something. So holy smokes, this is the now 11th or 12th time I've started this over. I'm so dysregulated. It's really been different having a third person in the house. That happens to be my son. And we haven't lived together for over 20 years. And so we're both rediscovering our quirky things, which is kind of funny actually, because he still repeats words over and over and over again. And I don't know why he's locked into it, but his favorite word right now is meow. I hear it about 150 or 30 million times a day, but then, I do blah, 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 blah. I do that all day long, so who am I to judge? So anyway, I've been so dysregulated that I'm back to just carrying my squeezy ball around and my fidget, and sometimes I'm doing them both because I'm so dysregulated. I've chewed off almost every bit of skin around my fingers. The pain is unbelievable. And I'm dysregulated and my son's dysregulated. And it's so interesting watching him because, man, I know in age and in theory, I know he is 43 years old. Still acts like he's in his 20s. And I can't judge that because people call me a liar and ask to see my driver's license when I tell them, I'm going to be 66 years old in January. And nobody believes me. And I get it. I look young for my age. And the big thing is I'm still very immature for my age. I act young for my age. And, people... I remember back when I was in high school, people used to make fun of, older people that, dress kind of, eccentric or, not quite like everybody else dresses. And, they were a little quirky, and everything like that. And they used to make fun of those people. And, I used to make fun of those people. I didn't know anybody, that age. And the few that I did know, they were your basic, boring old people, They weren't like cool or anything, And now here I am, and I'm like, ooh, I'm in my mid 60s heading towards 70s a lot faster than I want to. And I still feel like I'm in my 30s. And so I understand how, in my son's mind, he still acts very young for his age. And I still act very young for my age. And that can be a problem when you're trying to move and navigate out in the wild, as I like to call it. And so that's been really interesting living with him again like that. And I'm also seeing how I have been frustrating people over the past because he does not ask for help, and neither do I. I don't know why that is. It's not that we think we know everything, but we think that's easy, so we should be able to figure it out. And a lot of times we can't. And so, like my son's been putting things in the wrong place, which really triggers me. I have to have things in a certain place and in a certain order. Where we are the same is we have to have all labels facing outwards, period. So that one thing we all, me and him agree on. But he's just putting things in the wrong place, and I don't like that. And so I told him, I said, we're going to have boot camp training. I said, because I can't just uproot my life like this. I said, you're blending in with me. And I said, and I'm blending in with you. I said, I'll have some give and take, and you have some give and take, and we'll work together like that. And so right now I'm disappointed with him because I said, please don't run the dishwasher until I show you how it's different than anything that you've probably ever used before. And he's like, oh, it's a dishwasher. How hard could it be? And there we are, Mr., autism. And then, his ADHD, his impulsiveness is like, don't listen to her. We got this. Let's just do it. And they did it wrong. And not only did they only fill the dishwasher like, a quarter of it filled, which is a waste of water. Yes, my dishwasher is energy efficient, but still, it's the fact of the matter. Did he choose zone? How to zone dishwashing? No, he did not. Did he put the dishwashing soap, the little tab, in the right place? No. Did he put it in the right place? Oh, and shut the door to make sure all the dishes get clean? No. And I asked him, I said, Andrew, did you put that in there the right way? He's like, no. No. I said, did you put that in there the right way? And he said, yes. I said, I think the answer is no. Are you sure? And he said, yes, I'm positive. I get up and I look this morning, and there's my little dishwasher tablet sitting in the bottom of the dishwasher in a big, mushy, massy, chunky blob that I'm going to make him scrape out because I'm not doing it. But anyway, blah, 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 blah. You know what, you guys? Thank you for letting me get all of that out. I just needed to get it out. I don't know where these days have gone. I am still in the same outfit, and it's like 3 or 4 days later. Honestly, I don't know what day it is. I mean, I really don't. And yes, I wear my things 3 and 4 days in a row because they're comfortable and I love them and I want to wear them. But in this instance, it's because I've not had a chance to do anything. I don't even know who I am today. I haven't heard from Dee Dee or Lizzie's, about 4 or 5 days. They just abandoned ship and left me standing here on my own. So anyway, with all of that said, thank you for being here and thank you for being my support. I've got all of my support animals over there. I have you. Thank goodness I have you guys. And yes, now that I've gotten all of that off my chest, what do you need? Do you need something? Hold on again. Hold on, Bubba. Okay, I'm back. Everybody needs a piece of me. Leave me alone. Anyway, so, my dog needed to go outside, so we're going to let him do that. So, you guys, like I said, I'm almost done with this star blanket. It is so beautiful. I'm only got... Oh, you guys, it's been rough. One of the other reasons I started this video so many times is every time I look at this, I'm distracted. I don't know where my black necklace is. I'm going to try to make a new one tonight. I mean, I have another one, but it's different and it's not the one I wanted. So, of course, I'm going to make it a brand new one. Why wouldn't I? And so I'm wearing this, so every time I look up, I get caught off guard because, I'm seeing something different. But I always like to make sure I'm wearing something, so I'm not picking at my neck. My hands are already in, a state of disrepair, which is why I have these sitting close by now too. So anyway, I decided that I did not need to add another ball onto my star blanket because it's beautiful like it is, and it's just the perfect size. And my husband loves it because he can cover up with it in his recliner and it covers his whole body, including his feet, which is really super cool. But then I asked him, I said, so if you like this blanket and you cover up with it in your chair, why do you want another one? And he goes, well, you made that one for you. He goes, and so now you can make one for me if you have any yarn left over, which of course, I have yarn left over on purpose so I can make him a blanket. So that's actually going to be my next project, you guys. I guess I do blankets now because Andrew wants another blanket, even though he already has one. And so he wants another blanket too. And so, yeah, I enjoy doing blankets. I really do. I love big projects a lot better than the smaller ones, I believe. And something else I'm really liking about doing these blankets is within each blanket, I already know that there's going to be, a story embedded into that blanket. And it's the story of me. And, you know, my new journey, you know, through my neurodivergence, you know, something fun to like commemorate. You'll never catch me doing a temperature blanket or a anniversary blanket, those sorts of things, because you don't tell me what to do. I have me and my son both. I guess it's called, I don't know what it's called exactly, but it's like PDA or something, or I don't like the name of it. It's pathological demand avoidance. And we're not pathological, it's just a name they assign to it. But as soon as somebody tells me I have to do something, I'm not doing that. Or if they say, oh, well, that's too hard, you can't do that, then the impulsive me, Dee Dee, she's like, oh, that's hard? I bet we can do it. We have that really bad. And so I have no idea where I was going with that. Being told to do something. I don't know now. What was it? It had something to do with this damn blanket. It's future me here. I wanted to pop back in because I remember what I wanted to say about pathological demand avoidance. I was saying you will never see me doing like a temperature blanket or an anniversary blanket because I don't like being told what to do. Don't tell me, oh, the temperature today was 32 degrees, so you have to use the color you picked, and it's 32 degrees today, so you have to do that on this day. I'm automatically going to be like, I don't have to. I'll do it. I'll do it tomorrow. See what I mean? And I don't mean to be that way. I'm that way with me and with my own things. So I love blankets, but I'll never be doing any of those. No temperature blankets or mood blankets because my mood changes by the minute. How are you supposed to do that? Well, that doesn't make any sense now, does it? Anyway, back to the program. What it boils down to is if I'm feeling like I am being made to do something, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to find a different way to do it. And that's kind of what I did with even with this blanket. And so I decided that I am not going to add all those extra balls. I set some balls aside for my husband. And so, because, you know, I tell him he just needs to have more balls and I can help him out with that. And so I'm going to be making him a blanket out of some of these leftover yarns that I have. And I'm going to do a a mini Afghan. It's called something, but I can't remember what it is. Something like, you know, I don't know, something. There's a name for everything I'm finding out since, you know, blah, 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 I found out about all of my things. There's a name for everything. For this star blanket, once I decided to end where I was and not add any more balls, I decided to do the reverse single crochet, also known as the crab stitch. I love this. Now that I know that this stitch exists, it's going on everything. And this is what it looks like. I hope you can see it because my lighting's really bad. But see that? I love it and it's fun to do. And if you've never done it before, it's really interesting. And so all of my brains really love it because we're going backwards, you know, we're doing something against the grain, you know what I mean? And so I don't know if you can see, but like I'm going backwards. And so I'm doing a single crochet. So I'm going to go in behind where I am. And then I go through. And then when you come up, it has like the two loops on there. And one of them's a little twisted. And then you just finish it off like a regular. And it like does this like, it's like this little loop barrel type thing. It is super cool. It looks really nice on the thicker yarns. I saw a tutorial and she was using 4-weight yarn and mwah, it looks so beautiful. But with this thinner roving yarn and all the little variations and the colors and all the little fuzz and everything like that, it's so interesting. And so I've been working on this and I'm thinking if I can concentrate today, I'm thinking that I can get this done today. I would like to get this blanket done either today, and at the very latest, I'd like to have it done tomorrow, because I want to kind of wrap up on this and give you guys a reveal for this blanket in this video. And then I want to talk about my plans for my next new story. You guys, I'm really loving this. As you're working on your projects, depending on why you work on projects, for me, I'm never planning on selling anything. Everything I make is for me, or for my family, or for people that, love crocheted or handmade items, because special people get those. Not just everybody can have those. And I don't just make random gifts for people, because a lot of work and love and detail and blood and sweat and tears and conflict, sorry, go into each of those pieces. And so you want to make sure that the person you give it to is going to love it. You know what I mean? And so I make all of my pieces for me. And so within everything that I've made so far, there's a story or a reason behind I made that particular piece. And if there's no reason behind making that piece, you can guarantee it's probably a bigger piece for me, and there's going to be a story. And so with that said, I'm going to cut this clip right here, and I'll see you in the next clip or two. And I really want to just hone down and do some crocheting today, because my husband and my kid are out fishing. And so it's a nice enough day out today where it's warm enough where my husband can go out, because he can't go out in weather that's like under 66 degrees. He gets too cold. And so this is a rare treat for me. And so I wanted to come on camera and say hi. I wanted to do some info dumping, because I've got to find my necklace. And I want to get down to some crocheting. And yeah, I'll see you guys in a minute. You guys, it's the next day. Of course it is. But I found my necklace. You want to know how? I was moving my camera around and I found it, hanging right there behind me. So life is good. Let's get this party started. So I just finished the last stitches on this star blanket, and I'm actually happy about it. I don't feel any empty void or anything, weird going on. This blanket, even though it was challenging for my brains, this was a really good experience. And I'm finishing up the last, I can't remember the name, I can't remember the name of the stitch I was using. Reverse single crochet, crab stitch, something like that. It's fun, and it looks really super nice. I think I'm going to finish the last stitch off with a just a regular single crochet, and then cut it off, and I'm going to sew in all of my ends. And then while I'm doing that, I'm going to think over all the things that I want to share with you about this blanket. Not necessarily the story. The story will come later. But in this video, I definitely want to talk about my feelings about the pattern and how it went learning everything that I needed to do, and how I got over some of my challenges. And then I definitely want to talk about the yarn, because I have a lot to say about the yarn. And so I want to do that too. So let me go ahead and, do some tidying up on the blanket, and then let me wrap my head around what, kind of what I want to talk about. And yeah, I'll see you in a few moments. Yeah. Okay, you guys. So I've taken a bunch of pictures of this blanket. It's gargantuan. I had no idea how big this blanket is until, today when I started taking pictures. So I'm going to try to hold this up so you guys can see it, but there's no promises. Hang on. Isn't it massive and beautiful? Okay, let me get back to my desk. Okay, how cool is that? It's very cool. This blanket and me both came from humble beginnings. If you'll remember, this middle part, the setup round, took me the first time 72 hours just for the setup round. And then I had to take it all out and start over. And then from there, I've got fresh numbers. Hang on. All in on the blanket. All in from the 72-hour initial setup round until I finished the last stitch on the trim was 194 hours. So all in, that is approximately 24.258 hour days to finish this 6-day star blanket. But you guys know, when I started this, I wasn't going in for 6 days. I knew that wasn't gonna, I knew there was no way that was gonna happen. I mean, okay, I had this little Dee Dee. She had this little glimmer of hope that we could do this. And me and Lizzie were like, no way in hell are we doing this in 6 days? No way. And we didn't. But it doesn't matter, you guys. I'm not in competition with a star blanket. And I'm not in competition because of some, online, like, invisible stressor to add to your day. I understand if you like challenges, but challenges for me is a stressor. Just saying. And so, you guys, it came out so pretty. And let me show you one more time. I did the reverse single crochet for the trim, and I love it so much. Like I said earlier in this video, I'm literally going to figure out how to put it on everything because I love it so much. And here's what it looked like. And I know my lighting is bad, so I'll do the best I can for you to see the trim, and I'll try to take pictures too. Let me see if you can see it from it's different from the front side a little bit. You can see a little bit better. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Let's see if I can find a better color that's not so dark. Hang on here. Let me see. Oh, looks like they're all... I was on that last ball, with the brownie and, all of the darker colors. And so it's kind of hard to find a spot that's not, too dark. But here's one. Isn't it gorgeous, you guys? I love it. And so I took some notes here because, this isn't my story, though. This is all stats, okay? And so I just gave you the hours, 194 total hours to complete this blanket. And that was 24.25 8-hour days equivalent. Okay, now, the challenges with the recipe, Betty McNitt's recipe. Now, in all fairness, I read a lot of reviews about her recipe, and a lot of people had a lot of negative things to say about it. And quite honestly, I mean, I understand why they were, but you know, they were wrong. Her directions are very, very clear. Very clear. What I find was happening with me is, even though I don't know what the heck I'm doing, my brain wanted to default and go, oh, well, she doesn't mean to hook into the chain, the top of a chain. She means to hook into the top of the stitch next to it. No, that's not what she meant. She meant hook into the chain. And that's why she tells you to always mark your first stitch and mark that chain before you go around. And she tells you that in her video. So people out there that are complaining about her recipe are probably misreading it, misunderstanding it, because when you put it with the video, it helps. But for me, I could not just do the recipe on its own. That would be impossible for me. I needed the video backup. Also, I would not have been able to do the video on its own either, because sometimes you can't quite see what she's doing. So you need the, you know, the recipes as a follow-up. And so I was very impressed with her recipe for this blanket. Now, I don't know if it's been revised or how many times it's potentially been revised since, you know, all those people complained. But then again, people just like to complain about every little tiny stinking thing. And I come at it from like, well, that didn't work. What else works? But then again, you know, I've had to do that my whole life. So, you know, maybe I have a little bit of an edge on that. But I enjoyed the pattern. I enjoyed everything about this blanket. It was enjoyable. It was frustrating. I wanted to quit. The first time out of the gate, me and Dee Dee got mad and I took a pair of scissors and I destroyed it. But that worked out okay, because then, if you'll remember, if you saw that video, because I did that, I was able to start the blanket with a better color that I love so much more. And so that's where this new color came in. And it's called Saris. And I'm going to talk about each one of the balls too. And I like to call it watermelon. It reminds me of juicy, ice cold watermelon. I enjoyed the recipe, and I enjoyed this blanket. I am making many, many, many star blankets of varying sizes. It's just fun to make. And it's fun to watch all of the progress as you know, go from round to round. And so that was fun. Okay, next. The other challenges for me on reading, because I have learning deficits. And so if you're somebody out there that has like a learning deficit, or words get like jumbled or mixed up in your mind, or say you're very visual like I am, and that causes you some issues. And so what worked really well for me was, let me see if I can get this. What worked really well for me was highlighting my, my recipe, so I could be reminded of the key points. And hold on, you're gonna shake a little bit here, but I've got my notes right here. Are we all here? Okay. And so I showed you guys what I did is I went through each one of the little recipe points. And to make sure I stayed on track, I highlighted everything that was at the start of a row. And I highlighted everything that needed to be, how it needed to hook in, you know, for the next round to start. That helped immensely. And then I kept track of my rounds with these little tick marks. A check mark meant I was on the round, and when I hashtagged or hash marked through it meant I finished that round, and that helped also. And so those are some things that I did. Now, I want to talk about Dee Dee. Where Dee Dee at? Because another thing that I did learn from this blanket, and this will come in with my story, but I learned that Dee Dee is very elusive. Dee Dee, ADHD, is very impulsive, very creative, very quick, fast. And she cannot slow her brain down enough to count stitches. It's impossible for her. Even when she loves what she's doing, she's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 23, 25, 28. Yay! We have 32. And so this is what I'm dealing with. And so that's really interesting. And I can't wait to find out more about what's going on in her brain with her things. Okay. Now, other challenges is I had to count stitches. I appreciate that Betty McNitt says you do not have to count stitches once you have it set up. But people like me and people with brains like mine, we need to count. And not only did I count stitches, I had to go overboard counting stitches. I count stitches between peak to valley, and then from valley to peak. And then I mark those with a stitch marker. And then once I got toward the end of it, if the stitch markers weren't adding up, the counts weren't adding up to that stitch marker, then I knew I did something wrong because I pre-counted. Ha! Pain in the butt. That's where most of those hours came from on making this blanket, was counting. And sometimes I had to count 3 times minimum. Because if I count the first time, I always count a second time. And if the numbers don't match, I count a third time. And if those numbers don't match, then I do it a 4th time. See what I'm saying? And that's between each, peak and valley. But you know what? Who cares? So I was doing that, and yeah, counting each peak and valley. Okay, so that's all about that. Next, I want to move on to this yarn. Woo! Yay! Okay, let's talk about the yarn now. And Lizzie has some really cool stats, and so we're going to let her take over. So I don't know what's going to come out of her mouth, because she doesn't talk too often. She mostly just sits back and watches and observes everything. So anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I ended up using 5 total balls for the blanket, and I had originally ordered 7 balls because I wasn't quite sure how much it was actually going to take, because it's a single ply yarn and a roving yarn, and so it's thinner in spots and thicker in other spots. And so honestly, I didn't know, how much yarn it was going to need. So I just wanted to make sure I had enough, and I had plenty. And so each one of these yarns is these are all from Hubie, and they are all the Manaya, and they are all 558 yards, which is great. And they're all 65% wool and 35% acrylic. And I like that blend. And I have an aversion to wool, and this wool is so soft and so comfortable, and it's lightweight and really warm. I'm really gonna love it. And I'm glad I have a lot of yarn left over because I want to make some other things with it. And so I want to talk about the different balls that I used and how much of the blanket it completed. And so my first ball was colorway 10, and it looked like this. And this colorway 10 is Ceres, which I like to call watermelon, blue, yellow, and green. And since this was the start of the blanket, it did the most rows, of course. And so I was able to get, 20 rows out of this. The second ball I used, I was playing yarn chicken with it. I got really close. The second ball is colorway 7. And that's this one here. Let me see if I can try to hold it up. Some of the colors, all the colors aren't there. But this is all that was left. And this colorway 7, and that is tangerine, red, purple, and pink. And this ball did 10 rows. My third ball was gorgeous. And it was also my husband's favorite color, so I left more of it. I made sure I kept some back, for something special for him, since he liked the blue so well. And this one is colorway 6, and that was and it's right here, and that was teal, blue, purple, and plum. And so I kept a good amount of this, and I'm probably going to incorporate it into his blanket. I actually just placed another Hoobie order because, you know, it's getting on Black Friday and everything like that. And so I was able to get the Tea Time this time, XL, for 50% off. Big win. I've really been wanting to try that. So that's going to be coming for his blanket. So you'll see that when it gets here. You already know. And so that's what this was. And this was ball number 3. And it completed 8 rows before I pulled back. It would have done more, as you can see, but I wanted to keep it. So that's what we did there. And that was ball number 3. So ball number 4. Ball number 4 was a problem. I don't like to complain, and I don't complain a lot, but the regular retail price for these balls of yarn is $28 each. That's a lot of money. And I had so many knots in this ball. This was, before I even go any further, it had a different label, which was interesting. It had a black label. I don't know what that means. Well, I know what it means to me in this moment. And I don't know what the significance of that is. This colorway too was curry, blue, olive, and saffron. And I honestly thought that it was going to be my favorite color, which it didn't end up being my favorite color, but I thought it was going to. But the bigger disappointment is this. I understand factory knots. They're necessary. You run out of the yarn, you have to tie it, and you have to keep going so you can, you know, get the weight and length of your skein. Easy peasy. I get that. I had 4 knots that I had to address in this ball before I got halfway through the ball. And then after that, I had 3 more for a total of 7 knots I had to cut and retie in this ball. That's a problem because this yarn is so, it's hard to explain. On the ends, there are places that's just really furry and thick and fluffy, and it like, you know, it can pull apart if you're not careful. And so every time I would try to tie a knot and then, you know, just pull to make sure that the knot was secure, it would just like, and like come apart. And I had problems feeding in a new ball or feeding in, you know, after cutting the knots, you know, just feeding it in, because every time I would feed in a new yarn of any kind, I always ended up with extra stitches. And so I tried to tie my colors together. That was a challenge, but I got it to work. And I went back, I bought some liquid stitch, and I've secured most of the knots, but I'm gonna go through and make sure I secure all of the rest of the other knots and stuff like that. So that's what I got this for. Because this yarn is a special needs yarn, you know, just like me. But it was worth the effort that I put into it because the blanket is stunning. And I love single ply roving yarn, and that comes with challenges. And you know, I accept those challenges. I'll just put it that way. And so that's what was going on with this particular ball of yarn. It also says that you should use a different hook size. And so I thought that was interesting too. This one suggested a hook size that was half a size smaller. I don't know why. I just used the same hook and everything was fine. But that's the only problem I had with the yarn as far as knots and stuff like that. Now, let me go through this last ball. And so the last ball that I used ended up being one of my favorite colors, which was such a surprise. And this one here, and it was colorway 3. And that was ochre, brownie, turquoise, and dark blue. The blue and brown is so pretty. And then the brown like dips into these more like gold type colors. And it blends together so well. It was such a surprise and such a joy, you know, working with this color. And so that's what I used for, oh, and I forgot to tell you, let's see, hang on. I was able to do, with the first color, I did 20 rows. With this color, I did 10 rows. With the blue, I did 8 rows of that. And then I did 4 rows of the colorway, what was this one? Hold on. Colorway 4, you know, the special needs yarn. And so I did 4 rows of that, and then ended out the blanket with the colorway, where was it? Doesn't matter, I already told you, but you know, I gotta find it. Here it is. Ochre, brownie, turquoise, and dark blue. And I did 3 rows of this plus that reverse single crochet trim around the whole thing. And then, so I have all of these left over to make something really super cool with. You guys, what do you think I should bake with it? Because I have different yarn coming for my husband's blanket. And so I want to do something fun with this. Let me know if you have any ideas on what you'd like to see me make with this. And then for what I have left over, you guys, since I only used 5 balls, I have 2 full balls left over, which is exciting. And I have this one, which was the special needs yarn, you know, with all the knots in it, but I don't care. It's stinking pretty, and I have a whole ball of it that I can do whatever I want with it. And my favorite, which was the brownie, turquoise, blah, 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 whatever the heck all that stuff was I was just saying, I have a whole ball of that too. And so I'm so excited. So all together, you guys, left over is this. I'm so excited. Should I make a sweater? Should I do a cardigan? Should I make some pillows? I don't know. Whatever I want to do, it's going to be fabulous. And let's see, what else? I think that's kind of all I wanted to cover with this blanket, you guys. This was so much fun. And so those are all of the stats and everything. And I'm probably going to end this video right here because the next one I want to start planning, I want to start talking about what's next and everything like that. And you know, I'm going to have a what do they call it in the military world? I'm going to have a debrief, you know, on this blanket, probably like, you know, Star Date style or something. I don't know, Star Trek, I don't know, Andor, something like that. All right, you guys. I hope you loved my blanket, and I sure hope you enjoyed hanging out with me while I learned some more very, you know, sobering things about myself. I mean, you know, I'm all about, you know, learning new things and, you know, teaching an old dog new tricks and stuff like that. But dang. But I'm having a good time. And the best time I'm having out of all of this, you guys, is you guys hanging in with me and being there and offering me support. You guys have such kind words. And I look forward to that every week because honestly, some weeks that's what has kept me going. And so with that said, with all of this neurodivergence that's popping off right now, are you neurodivergent or think you might be? Do you have neurodivergent tendencies? I bet you do. Are you autistic, ADHD, or think you might be? Maybe. And do you love yarn as much as I do? I hope you do. I hope you love yarn, and I hope you love the projects that you're working on right now. And don't forget to tell me down in the comments what you're working on, because I'm nosy and I need to know. And tell me, what kind of yarn are you using? What's the project? Is it for you? Is it for somebody else? Do you love it? Do you hate it? If you hate it, you know what to do with it. Put that sucker in the whip pile and, you know, look at it later. So anyway, with all that said, you guys, I'm excited to see you in my next video.